Hello everyone and welcome back to A Kupel Books. This is Kupel as always. So, first things before we get out into what I'm doing today in today's video, as you guys probably already know based off the thumbnail and the title. For those who are not aware or are new to the channel or anything like that, or haven't been watching for a while, I am currently in the middle of finals. And by the middle, I mean I'm in the final stretch here, people. We are so close to the end. And as soon as I have everything turned in, I can get back into the normal groove. I'll start responding to comments again. I will start doing everything again, posting of my usual schedule of like 4 to 5 videos a week. We will get back into the groove of things. Right now, I appreciate so much your guys' patience with everything. It is taking a lot more effort than I thought to balance everything this month, but we're getting through it. So sorry. I am so sorry, guys, that I've not been responding to your guys' comments. It is not personal, just a few too many things going on at the moment, but we will be getting back into the groove of things, so don't you guys worry. And I appreciate so much your guys' continued support during this time. With that out of the way, let's get into today's video. I read Ready Player 1, Ready Player 2, because I really wanted to read Ready Player 2. I wanted to read it for a while. I heard a lot of bad, not so great reviews on it, so I was debating, hemming and hawing about it, so I decided to reread Ready Player 1 to get into the hype of Ready Player 2. So this is kind of a review to a certain degree. It's more about what I would change to make it better and what I didn't like about it in particular and how it could have been such a much better book. So, of course, this is going to be filled with spoilers. So if you guys have not read this book, then please do not stay on it. All I can tell you before you guys go is that I was not a huge fan of it, but we're going to fix that in today's video. So, please, if you guys wouldn't mind, if you haven't read it, you are welcome to leave now. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for staying, saying hello, popping in. You know, it was lovely seeing you today. And I can't wait to see you guys in the next video. But if you're here now, that means you're ready for spoilers and that means you're willing to be spoiled. So, Ready Player 1. To begin this conversation, I really have to discuss what I loved about Ready Player 1. First of all, I love the unique concept of it. The whole, of course, now I would know it as lit RPG. At the time of reading this, I did not know about this genre, was not aware of it. The whole idea of literary role-playing games and the whole idea of like massive virtual reality games being in like novelized form, I was not aware of that, was not in the world at all. Now I'm very much in the world and I love it very much and I love the genre as a whole. Was not into it at all at the point of reading this, so it was a fresh take on the whole sci-fi genre. Really enjoyed it so much. I loved the references in this book. I loved the pop culture references from that time period. I really enjoyed everything about this book. There was very little I didn't like about it. There were some parts that irked me. It was not a perfect book, of course. I also felt that the story was really real, that there was a lot of real conflict and struggles going on within the story that gave it like character and like gave it like chutzpah. I really enjoyed that part of the story as well. One of the things I really loved about this story that I think was missing in the second one was its ingenuity. Like, it was very fresh, it was very different, and it was a very like unique take on storytelling, and I really enjoyed that. So while the characters themselves might not have been such unique characters themselves, the story itself compensated. So for any flaws that were present in the story within the characters was made up for throughout the plot. For example, the weight of it, like when one of the main characters in the first book died, like that was like, he actually died in real life and that was like a serious deal and it was like a no joke, and like it really lended credibility and weight to the story. So like, was I emotional in the first book when like the aunt died or when like when those characters died? I wasn't really so emotional because I wasn't so connected to the characters, but it moved the plot forward to a satisfying conclusion, which is why I really enjoyed it. And it was not a book that was character focused for me. I was not super in love with the characters, as I've said before, but it was a story that I really enjoyed the plot of, and that's why I was really in love with this book. As you guys know, I give this like 4 out of 5 stars. I absolutely love this book. But now moving into this book, after rereading that and jumping straight into this, I can see why people don't like it. It's not a great book. And I think that there's a few reasons why. And that's why we're here today. We're going to point out some of the flaws in it and we're going to fix it up for Ernest Cline. Because I don't hate Ernest Cline's writing at all. Like, I don't hate his writing style. I don't hate his ideas. I really genuinely like them. But I have an issue with how he did the story. So, number 1, he needs to cut out the first 100 pages. For those who do not know, This book literally picks up like right after the ending of the first book. Like it's like a few months, like it's not a long period of time later. Wade, our main character, is like collected all this wealth. He now lives in Halliday's mansion, who was the original creator of the game, and basically he is now kind of like living solo. His friends have kind of dropped off the map. He has kind of pushed away all of his friends, and it's not really fair to them. So he's kind of isolated himself, and they've isolated from him. He's super wealthy. He's one of the richest people alive, and they are currently living and enjoying their wealth to the most extremes. And honestly, I just didn't need the first 100 pages, because the 100 pages could have been summed up so quickly, because basically the first 100 pages of this story is just like a massive like setting the scene, and it was just not necessary. Like honestly, everything that happened in the first 100 pages was complete doo-doo, and it was not necessary to stay in. And I almost DNF'd this book like twice because of the first 100 pages. It was so boring. Like nothing was there. All you know is, okay, Wade and his girlfriend broke up because he's a jerk, and she's doing amazing things. She's an amazing individual, and he is a selfish like homebody who like doesn't want to do anything, and he just wants to live in his wealth, and that's all it is. And he's kind of turned into a bit of a stalker. Like that's all we gained from that. There was nothing good coming out of that, out of the first 100 pages. Like I didn't gain anything from it. I don't mind that narrative choice to kind of isolate Wade and to kind of turn him into sort of like a semi-Halliday in terms of like a social isolation, but by no means did it need that many pages. So that's my first issue. Remove those 100 pages. Second issue, I really did not love how dirty I felt reading this book, and not in the way you guys are thinking. I'm thinking in the way that I read this book and I felt like there was like racism. It wasn't that it was direct racism, it was Ernest Cline trying so hard to be woke and trying to be aware of racial inequalities, and I appreciate that in the author, and I completely respect that, and I appreciate the effort he's making here, but it was so blatant to the point that it was almost like it felt not right to me, you know? It's like when someone says something and you're like, that was probably a microaggression, like that just didn't feel good, it didn't settle well in your stomach, and it wasn't like blatant racism, but it was just like enough wrong that it didn't feel well. That's how I felt reading a lot of these scenes. In this story, they received the Oniware. The Oniware is like this like virtual reality headset that allows you to kind of like get into the game world through your mind. So it basically taps into like your like brain, it taps into your brain and allows you to like experience the virtual world as if it's the real world, instead of using a gaming suit with like sensors and that kind of stuff. So it's like moving on from Wii into like full-on virtual reality, and that suit allows them to experience a lot of different things. So there's like a lot of like sexual encounters in this book that I was not a huge fan of. There was a lot of different things in there, and it also for me took away a lot of the like I felt what Ernest was trying to say. Like for example, there's one scene in this book where Wade is kind of talking about his different like journeys in his sexuality, like trying to explore different things using the Oniware, since you're able to experience pretty much anything you can think of. And he says like since then he's become much more like fluid in his identity, but it felt so much of like a gimme. Like there was no, I don't know how to say this without like sounding bad, but like it just felt pushed. Like it felt like forced. It did not feel like it was like his character arc. It did not feel like it was character progression. I felt like Ernest Cline is trying to be so forward thinking and so progressive that it ends up coming off as distasteful and not so goody-goody. And it goes from being aware of societal problems and recognizing those problems and doing your best as an author to integrate that into your story. It went from that to kind of shoving it down your throat to the point that it felt like it was so forced that it was not at all in the slightest bit appealing to the storyline. It was not at all the slightest bit appealing to the characters. Part of the reason I love the first book is when you find out that Parzival, Wade's game name, his best friend in the game world, was actually a African-American woman, and like that was like an amazing thing because it was like subtle enough, but it was like also direct. She says like, why do you present yourself as a white male? Why do you speak in a white male voice when you are a black female? And she like goes in like, my mom found success by being a white male in the game world, and it helped her with jobs, it helped her with her success in life, and so I just continued in that pattern, and I also created my character as a white male because of that too. And like that is a very nice like commentary on our social society and on our social system and on the system itself. Like that is beautifully put. It's real. We get it. We're with it, right? I'm with you 100%. But like in this one, it went from that to like kind of shoving everything down your throat, where it's like, it kind of takes away from, I feel like, real people's like actual experience with like society and the struggles with society and the issues that are in society. It took away those real struggles from people by trying to like make every character in this book seem like so like unique and special and like diverse, that it was just kind of getting like, it was too much. So he needs to tone that way down. The other thing I hated about this book was the fact that I was really upset with the ending. So for those of you guys know, there's like the like AI system of Halliday shows up, and he basically puts everyone's lives at stake by locking them inside the Oniware, which threatens their lives if they're in there for too long. And he proceeds to basically force Wade to complete a quest that Halliday left behind for his heir, being Wade. And he says that he needs to complete the quest in order to save everyone's lives. And it's like a few 100,000 people. And he's like, you need to do this or everyone's going to die, including you. So Wade like sets off with his friends to try and solve this quest. And the story was like, I was kind of in it. Like at this point I was kind of like, I was getting to a groove. I'm like, okay, the story's picking up. My main issue with it, with the ending of it, was that I felt that it was kind of like, it wasn't a good ending in my personal experience. In the sense that I didn't hate the antagonist. I didn't hate how the story ended, but I hated the whole final conclusion where they sent off like a few of the revived virtual AI relatives in a spaceship to go colonize a planet that might or might not exist. I just thought that was kind of a stupid ending. I feel like a lot of the commentary in this book, and the reason it's really profound, is that it's kind of got a lot of subtle commentary on society that was in the first book, and in this book it's kind of getting shoved down your throat. But in the first book it was very not nice, but it was very subtle and it was very real. And one of the biggest themes I pick up from these books is how devastatingly bad society's gotten. Like society's like not good, right? And he does it so well, where he like points out these like, he just like gives you like little scenes and little bits throughout, kind of painting how horrible society's gotten over the years. And what one of the characters is doing in this book is like trying to fix that, like by using her wealth to go out there and try and fix it, and while Wade doesn't do any of it. I feel like a much more better concluding part of the story would have been erasing or like limiting or doing something to the Oasis where it like brought it back down and allowed everyone in the world to reconnect with Earth and like try and fix it together. Instead, they just kind of like threw the spaceship into space and they were like, good luck, hopefully you'll save humanity and we're just going to continue to destroy Earth itself. And I did not like that ending. I thought it was a weak ending. It wasn't my favorite ending. I didn't hate the antagonist. I didn't hate the storyline. I didn't hate where it went. It was like the last like 15 pages I didn't love. And I think it could have been such a better ending if he did it a little bit differently. And my last and final thing I think I want to say about this is the references. This book felt very gatekeeping to a certain extent. And my reasoning is that there were a lot of, so like in this story, every single so they have to go collect these 7 shards, and each shard is kind of based in a world that is full of like these one types of references, right? So like for example, in like the second to last shard that they have to go get, they end up in a Prince, like high Prince reference area. And I'm not familiar with Prince. I don't really listen to that music. I honestly don't even know what Prince looks like. Like I literally know nothing about Prince. So like that section was super boring to me. And then like the next section was Lord of the Rings, which I'm obsessed with. Like I'm like there, I'm like, oh my god, this is amazing. I love that he's doing this. But I could also see how someone who's not into Lord of the Rings would feel turned off by that. So I think that he was so limiting to a certain extent and so narrow focus on specific references, and he delves so deep into these references instead of kind of doing a more broad like scope of it, that it was like kind of gatekeeping to a certain extent. And the problem is that in the first book, whenever there were like references no one got, it was okay because you enjoyed the plot enough to move past the references you didn't understand. In this book, it was so reference heavy to the point that like, and the plot was not strong enough to carry you past those. So you just kind of fell into this hole of like, I'm not enjoying this section of the book at all. So for me, the first 100 pages I hated. For me, the second to last shard quest I hated as well, because it was all Prince related stuff. I was just like not interested. I'm like, this is boring to me. I don't care about it. I'm really not into it. So those are like my issues with it, to be honest with you guys. And I feel like those are like, yes, they're big issues and they're large issues, but I think that it's not that Ernest Cline did anything like inherently super wrong with the book that made it horrible. I think that it just wasn't solid. Ernest Cline produced an amazing first book and he kind of failed to follow through in the second one. And I think that honestly it probably would have been better to leave Well Enough alone and move on to a different book entirely and make a new novel like he did of Armada. Like, I feel like I enjoyed Armada. It's not a lot of people's favorite book. I really enjoyed it. So like, I would have appreciated him going on and making something else. I'm not going to recommend it to anyone. I think I gave it 2 stars in Goodreads. I'm somewhere in the 1.5 to 2 stars because I almost did DNF it, in which case that's a 1 star, but I didn't, so I finished it. So 1.5, 2 stars. I'm not a huge fan of this book in the slightest. I do think that the issues I discussed, the first 100 pages, the ending, the wokeness being shoved down your throat, and the like gatekeeping was like just a little bit much, and I couldn't really get my heart into the story because of those issues. But overall, those are my views. I'm glad I read it. I'm glad I have my own personal opinion on it now, but that is kind of my thoughts on it. So if you guys are interested, please leave a comment down below. What were your guys' thoughts on Ready Player 2? Did you guys like it? Did you guys enjoy it? I'm curious to hear and curious to read. And don't worry guys, I am reading everyone's comments and I will be responding next week. So do not worry, I'm there, I'm listening, and I will get back into the groove of things. Thank you guys so much for your patience. If this is your first time here, don't forget to subscribe. And if you wouldn't mind while you're down there commenting, maybe leave a like. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye now.